Hello neighbor, Alicia Dolan here at Creating in My Corner. Sorry, I was leaning on the table and it kind of wiggled everything. I am glad to see you tonight. We are here for Stampin' Sunday card class. Tonight we are going to be using the kintsugi paper. I don't know for sure how you say that, but it's really beautiful paper. So these are the cards that we'll be making tonight. Why do I always have trouble like figuring out which side of me to show you these cards on? So it looks like my camera's a little dirty too. I'll try and fix that when I turn the camera down. So those are the cards we're going to be making tonight. I had my in-person card class on Friday. It was a lot of fun. And everyone loved their cards. So one of the cards that we're doing tonight is actually from the in-person class, but the other two I designed brand new just for tonight. Let me turn the camera around and we'll get started. Just before I do that, if you want to get the kit for these cards, all you have to do is place your order of $35 or more, choose me as your demonstrator, by Saturday at 11:59. So then at lunchtime, I plan on placing my order. Let me switch the camera. All right, I tried to set everything up ahead of time, but as you know, things don't always go the way you plan. All right, so let me just give my camera lenses here a quick swipe. I don't know if that made any difference or not. It doesn't look all that different to me, but and my other camera looks crooked. Maybe my table is crooked. I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I don't see any comments yet, and I don't see that anyone is watching. I tried to schedule this ahead of time, and it didn't turn on. So I don't know if I did something wrong or not, but I'll be watching some more videos to learn about the best way to go live. So these are our cards for tonight. We're going to start with this one. We're actually going to change the sentiment on this just a little bit because I want you to be able to use whatever stamps you have or just buy 2 sets, not 3. So I actually used 3 different sets to make these cards, but I want to narrow that down a little bit. So we'll go to only 2. All right, our first card is not overly complicated, but there is quite a bit of embossing and a lot of cutting. So we are going to need a thick basic white card base, and I just pulled one from my stash. If you make a lot of cards, you probably want to have a little stash of cardstock like I have right over here next to me. So anytime I cut a base and I don't use it right away, I just put a little stash together. So I have one stash of cards that aren't folded yet, and these are all 8.5 by 5.5, so they're basic sizes. I also have a little stack of already folded card bases, so it just makes making a quick card a little bit quicker. But I love to have those, especially when I'm designing. So our first card, we've got our card base, which is 8.5 by 5.5, and that's folded in half. Next, we need this embossed layer of basic white. So I have another little stash of basic white pieces that are cut 4 inches by 5.25, and that's only because that is a really common size for me when I am putting cards together. But this we are going to emboss with the Exposed Brick 3D embossing folder, which looks like this. All right, and I have my die cutting machine over here on the side. I feel like you have seen me use it before for embossing. So I'll show you the first one, and you can let me know if you need me to show you some more embossing tricks. But what we're going to do is put our basic white piece in here. Now the exposed brick goes, you can emboss it either way, but if I were to emboss this one this way, then my card would look sideways. So I'm not going to do that today. So I'm gonna put it in there and then kind of line it up with this line right here. That's what tells me that it's my lines are, my brick is going to be straight. All right, and I have run that through my embossing folder. I'm still not seeing any comments. If you are watching and you could like give me a thumbs up or say hello, that would be really great, just so that I know that someone is watching. You don't have to, but it's nice to know someone's watching. All right, that is going to be our first layer. Okay, I'm going to put the card over here so you can kind of see what I'm doing as I'm working. Okay, next we are going to cut this Misty Moonlight layer, and that is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, so when I'm cutting 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, I usually just start with the 4 1/4 side, because if I were to make a tall card, it would be this size. It would be 4 1/4 by 11. So I can put that one in my stash for later. All right, so I cut my 4 1/4. Now I'm going to do 3 1/4. Oh, and I tried to sharpen my blade today. Can you see that little edge right there? It's not as smooth as I would like it to be. So I may need to order some new blades and switch those out. Okay, so now we've got our 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. Now we need a piece of basic white that is 3 by 4. I'm trying to cut neatly now so that I don't get those jagged edges. I don't like that. And you'll notice different papers are more sensitive to fresh blade than others are. Okay, there is our 3 by 4 piece, which is going to go on next. Now we need these 2 designer series papers and one more Misty Moonlight piece. Okay, now that Misty Moonlight is 7/8 by 3 3/4. I'm not sure if that cut any tighter this time or not. Well, not too bad. Okay, 7/8 by 3 3/4. Okay, so that's going to go in the middle. And then we need our designer series paper. Okay, this is the Kintsugi paper. Kintsugi Inspirations. It is really, really pretty. And we are going to use 2 different patterns. So we want this. That one looks like I might have cut it already the right size. And a piece of this. So these 2 are the ones we're using for this card. Aren't those pretty? They have some gold in them. The backs are really nice too. They're kind of a petal pink and a misty moonlight. But these are the other papers, just so you can get a look at them. They're really, really pretty paper. Okay, there. Now I think you've seen most of the sheets, and those are the backs. So they're really nice, soft colors on the back. All right, let's see. We need, okay, this one here. Was not quite long enough. Okay, so we're gonna cut it at 7/8. We need each of our pieces to be 7/8 by 3 3/4. Okay, so 7/8 by 3 3/4. Let's measure this one just to make sure. Yeah, 3 3/4. Now these papers, they're not really direction specific, so they can go either way you choose. But this one in the middle, we are going to emboss. See how that one in the middle has flowers? So we are going to put it through the pressed flowers embossing folder. You see those? And I just wanted to show you real quick, you can, depending on where you put this piece, what your image is going to be. So if you, I'm trying to find a way to show you. You can't really see the, does that help a little bit? All right, so you can see that the embossed images don't go all the way to the top. If you put your piece of paper up here, only a little bit of it is going to get embossed. So if we want our whole paper to be embossed, and I might like the edge to stick out at the top, I actually put my first one on upside down. That was not intentional. And the other thing about this folder is a lot of our folders now are 3D folders. This one is not. So when you run it through your embossing machine, your Stampin' Cut and Emboss, your Big Shot, whatever machine you use, you're going to need to find the proper sandwich. But if you have trouble figuring that out, if your embossing folder does not go through fairly smoothly, it really shouldn't be that difficult, then do not press it, because you can break these folders. I have seen them snap right at the hinge, and you can use them after that, but it's way more difficult. Okay, here is our embossed piece. And next we need our little circle. And this is actually a Stylish Shapes circle, which I have a whole bunch of in my little tray here. So anytime I die cut some basic white, I try to cut a couple of extra shapes. So see all those little shapes in there? If you have access to a Dollar Tree, you can get this and sort out your little shapes and just have them ready, because you never know when you might need one. Okay. I do not see my Stampin' Pierce mat anywhere. So I'm going to use my silicone craft sheet. All right, so I'm not going to put it on top of my die though. I'm going to put it underneath because I want to stamp on here. And instead of our card saying "You're so kind," we are going to choose a sentiment from the beautiful Motifs stamp set. So I was thinking this one would be nice. You've been on my mind. So that way I can send someone a little note and let them know that I've been thinking of them. And I am going to send my notes. We have to send notes, friends. We cannot just keep making them and keeping all our cards to ourselves. We got to send them out. All right, so there is the "You've Been on My Mind." And since I haven't used that stamp before I use it to stamp with my classic ink, I'm just going to tap it with some Versamark. And all that does is help condition the stamp when it's brand new so that it stamps a little bit nicer. And tonight we are going to use some Misty Moonlight ink on this card. This is one of my favorite colors. All right, so we're going to tap our stamp in there. And I didn't get out my practice sheet today. I always like to have a little practice sheet to stamp on. That tells me if the Versamark worked or not. All right, so now we're going to ink up our stamp. And we've got our little circle. This is a little circle from the Stylish Shapes. I think it's the second smallest. It's about 1.25 inches. So if you have a circle punch, you could use that. Whatever little size circle you would like. All right, and so there is our sentiment. And then I'm just going to clean it off real quick. I took my chamois and divided it up and put it in these little cases. So now I have little chamois everywhere. Hopefully I won't ever be missing a chamois. It does happen though. It still does happen sometimes. See, because I don't know where to put it then. I'm just going to pop it back in my to-go bag because that way it won't get lost. Okay, there is our sentiment, and we can pop our stamp right back in the case so it doesn't get lost. And now we can put our card together. So we need a little bit of this white ribbon. This has a really fancy name. It's called white 1/4 inch ribbon. So if you're looking for that, for a nice ribbon that ties well, this is really nice. It feels nice. I don't know why it doesn't have a fancier name, but it makes it really easy to find. All right, what we're going to do is turn our sentiment over. And I don't use it very often, but for this I use Stampin' Seal. And I just ran it across the back. And then I took my ribbon and I just zigzagged it a little bit across there. Okay? Just like that. And then before I trimmed it, I kind of turned it over just to see if I liked where it was. So like I might like this one to be just a little farther over. And the Stampin' Seal won't hold it super tight right away so that you can move it a little bit if you want to. All right, and then I'm just going to trim those ends. These snips are really nice for that. You can't order them right now, but really any pair of sharp scissors will work good for cutting your ribbon. Okay, there's our sentiment. That is ready. And let's put our card together. So we're going to turn over the piece of basic white that we embossed. And now is when I'm going to use my liquid glue. So I'm going to put a thin line all around the edge. I leave a space for my finger and then a squiggle down the middle. And I do the same thing every time I use the liquid glue, unless my piece is super small. Now I can line it up in the center, and because that glue isn't dry right away, I can kind of wriggle it just a little bit if my edges aren't where I want them to be. Then I'll press it down. Okay, and next I'm going to put this layer together. So I'm going to turn my designer series paper over, my cardstock, and my other little piece of designer series paper. Now I'm going to take my liquid glue, and again I'm going to do just a thin line around the edge. I'm going to leave a little space for my finger where I can pick it up, and a little squiggle down the middle. And I'm going to do the edges first. So I'll just put glue on those. A little squiggle in the middle. And then I'll give that glue right back to Mortimer. If you haven't watched before, Mortimer is my little glue turtle. He's my helper. He holds my glue upside down for me so that it's always at the ready. Now I'm going to line these up. I'm going to line up the edge ones first. Okay. And remember, those, you can wriggle them a little bit if they are not exactly where you want them to be, because the liquid glue doesn't dry immediately. Okay, so there's my two edge pieces. Now I'm going to get this one in the middle. Okay, a little squiggle, little squiggle. And I can use that spot that I left for my finger to pick it up and turn it over. And then I can slide that right in the center and line it up. Give it a little wriggle if I need to. Wriggle the squiggle. I don't know. Anyway. All right, now that whole piece is going to get turned over. And again, here we go. A thin line around the edge. We're leaving a space for our finger because we want to be able to turn it over. And then we're doing a squiggle in the middle. The nice thing about liquid glue is you really don't need very much. That's probably almost too much, what I just put on there. The edges are, as long as you have that thin line around the edge, that's really going to stick it well enough that it's going to stay together. Barring some kind of catastrophe. If there's a catastrophe, maybe it's going to fall apart. All right, now on the back, we are going to add some Stampin' Dimensionals. So I'm going to put them on the edges. And I don't like to put them too close to the edge because sometimes I get a little carried away and they hang off, and then I have to cut them with my scissors, and then my scissors get all sticky. I don't like that. So I try to keep them a little closer towards the middle. we go. Okay, and then we can put this right in the center. Now, before you stick it down really good, you just want to make sure that you've got it lined up where you want it to go, because these guys will pretty much stick right away where you put them. Okay, now we have our little sentiment. We're just going to turn that over and add a dimensional right here in the center. It's not very big, so that should be enough for it. Okay, and then we're just going to put this down here in the corner. And that is our first card. So we did change out the sentiment, right? So that we use the beautiful motifs instead of the right words. But you could use either one or any sentiment that you have at home. There's our first card. Okay, now the next one. This one's takes a little more doing. So, but you're gonna love it. It's a beautiful card. Okay, we've got our card base, and again, I pulled one out of my stash. It's 5.5 by 8.5, and it's folded in half. So I usually score mine at 4.25 just to make sure that my fold is nice and steady. So we've got that, and then we're going to cut our designer series paper. Okay, and we use this one this time. Isn't that pretty? I really love that paper. Okay, and then I also used some of this gold foil. Now, when you get the gold foil, it comes in sheets of 2. So you definitely need to know that when you're ordering. Okay, I'm not sure what size I need, so I need to measure. I haven't written the instructions up for this one yet. Okay, so our designer series paper is going to be 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. And actually, I think we could make it go all the way to the edge. I think, but we did that on the next one, so maybe not. All right, we're just going to go with the same. We're going to go with what we have. 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so that's going to go in the center. And then we need 3 inches. See, that one's not quite big enough. Okay, this one's going to work. 3 inches. By 5 1/4. I use this gold foil a couple times tonight. I really like it. Okay. Now we're going to be putting this gold foil behind our designer series paper. So what I want to do is take and cut this little flower out of my gold foil before I make my card. That flower is in the Gallery Blooms dies. It's this one right here. So I'm just going to cut that out on my die cutting machine real quick. So this is kind of a paper saving tip. So here is our little flower. And then we have our gold foil, especially with the gold foil. It is kind of it's pricey. All right, so we've got our gold foil that's going to go behind here. Our paper. We have our little flower. I'm going to put this away before I lose it because that little flower is very likely to get lost. Okay, now we also need to cut out some other little shapes. So, looking for my little scrap pieces. This one, that one. And this one. Okay, so if we're careful, we can line up our shapes. Okay, so we've got two that are pecan pie, this skinny one, and this kind of a little bit bigger leaves. We're going to put that on there. Okay, then we can get this long leaf. And this, which I think is a little bunch of flowers, but at first I thought it was ferns. It doesn't matter. We're still cutting it out, right? And then on our, this is Lost Lagoon pecan pie. I just realized I didn't tell you that. And petal pink is what we're using for our die cuts. Now I'm going to move these over there carefully, hopefully without shuffling anything, and I should be able to cut them all out at the same time. Now, if you try that and you had trouble with them scooching around, you can use some Post-it tape to hold them all in place. And I'm going to use my, I think I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool. I don't see it in my basket. I must have taken it upstairs. Hold on. Oh, I don't see it at all. All my Take Your Pick tools must be upstairs from class. So I will try my best to use my scissors and not poke myself or cut my paper on accident. Okay, so we've got this little leaf. Well, this one did scoot a tiny bit, but I think it's all right. We've got a little leaf like this. And this one is special. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that one. We have a leaf like this. Trying to keep track of them all. Okay, we've got two more here. This one is our petal pink one. And okay, here is the Lost Lagoon. Okay, now we need to first poke out all these little bits. This is where my take your pick tool would have come in really handy. So I didn't accidentally poke myself. These snips are really sharp, so I always have to be super careful when I'm using them as a tool they're not supposed to be used as. Oh, I see one like. You guys, I don't know who did that, but I appreciate it. Thank you. I don't know why, but I can't see any comments tonight. I don't know if no one's saying anything. That's very possible. Maybe I'm doing enough talking for all of us. I don't know. All right, what we're going to do next. We need this circle here, which is, I put my ruler down and it's clear, you guys. Don't put your clear ruler down. You have to always put it back in your bucket. Okay, it's 2 inches, so I need a 2-inch circle. Here we go. We've got a 2-inch punch right here. If you don't have a punch, you can use whatever circle that you can find. You can use a die. You can use a 2 1/4 inch circle, or probably a 1 3/4 inch, whatever. Use what you have. Okay, here is our circle. Now, here comes another cool part. So I have this little sponge dauber, and here is my leaf that we just die cut. So we're going to put it down here, okay? And we're going to take our Pool Party ink, and I am going to sponge dauber over this leaf. So just like this. And I just want to make sure that I get enough ink that the image behind it kind of sticks out a little bit. Okay, and now the bottom doesn't matter so much because that's going to be covered up. That's where our sentiment's going to go. Okay. So there is that. Now we're going to move it kind of up here. And then we're going to switch and we're going to do some Lost Lagoon ink. Okay. We're going to use the same sponge dauber. I know. Rebellious, right? Just a little bit. Okay. Then we're going to sponge. And you can see a little difference in the color. They are in the same color family, guys. Don't be too hard on me. Uh-oh, there's a little dog hair trying to get in there. Now that's going to mess things up. Okay. I gotta scoot it back to where it was. Okay. Okay, now you can do more than that if you want to, but look how cool that is. It gives you a nice little image, and we're still going to use that leaf, so it's perfect. All right, now, oh, I should have left. No, I shouldn't have. Never mind. Okay, now we've got our Lost Lagoon pieces. Okay, and we're going to take our other sponge dauber. They come in a pack of 6, so you can have at least one for every color family. You've got blues, greens, browns, pinks. Blue, green, brown, pink, red. And then one extra, like just in case you have a special color, right? What I do try to do with my sponge daubers though is start with a lighter color and work to the darker if I'm doing more than one color at a time. Let me know in the comments if you ever use sponge daubers. They're kind of my favorite thing. Before there were sponge daubers, there were yellow sponges. Does anyone remember the Stampin' Up! Yellow sponge? I used to cut that thing into so many little triangles. Okay, now we're adding, I didn't even tell you, pecan pie ink to our little branches. Sometimes I pick them up and add it right to the edge. You could also do this with blending brushes. I had someone ask me about that at class the other day. Yes, you can do this with blending brushes, but the only thing is sometimes when I'm swirling those blending brushes onto my little branches and things, I'll bend them up. And especially the really delicate ones, it's nice to just sponge down and not sideways. Okay, so there are our leaves and our branches. Here's the little gold one that we cut out of the middle. Now the pink one, instead of it just being petal pink, we're going to color it with our Wink of Stella brush. Wink of Stella doesn't add a huge lot to it, but it does add some good sparkle. So it's not like glitter glue, guys, where it's going to get everywhere. And it's going to sometimes randomly come out when you don't expect it. Or it's not going to get stuck. You don't have to stab it with a pin to get it unstuck. Sometimes our glitter glue would do that. I don't know if you're a glitter. I was a huge glitter glue fan before. Okay. Can you see that sparkle at all? It really is really sparkly. I don't know why you can't see it in the video. Probably because of my lighting. I'm constantly adjusting that. So hopefully eventually it will be perfect. Okay. Now we need a little 1/4 inch piece of basic white, and we're going to stamp. I'm getting everything all stuck tonight. We're going to stamp just a note. Now if you wanted to, you could switch that out for any one of these scenes. There's a hello, there's thinking of you, celebrate. You could turn this into any kind of card you want it to be. But I wanted mine to say just a note, because I like to have cards ready for any occasion, and I feel like just a note covers that. Okay, we're going to tap, and I have already used this one, so I know I don't need to use the Versamark. I'm going to stamp it at the top a little bit because I want to trim this down just a little bit smaller so that it sits a little closer inside the words. Okay, I have to remember I haven't cleaned that one off yet. So what I'm going to do is use my Simpson. I'm going to trim it at the end. And then along the bottom, it looks a little bit crooked to me, guys. I'm going to blame that on the dog. She's not even down here, but it had to be her fault, right? Okay. So there is my little just a note. Now, I need a little piece like this, and usually I have a bunch of them, but I don't tonight. So I'm going to cut a little quarter. No, that's a 1/2 inch. A little 1/2 inch strip. And I'm going to glue my sentiment on there before I even trim it. So I'm going to put a little bit of green glue on here. Maybe. Must be running a little low. Mortimer's not doing his job very well. I'm blaming everyone tonight but myself. That's what I'm doing. Okay. Now we're going to stick it on. We want it to be a little off center. Okay. So we're not putting it on so that we get the border all the way around. We're putting it a little off center. We're using some, what do they call that? Asymmetry tonight. I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't mind. Okay, now it's time to put our card together. So, I need to move these stamps out of my way here. They're a little too close. They're crowding me. I'm feeling claustrophobic because of too many stamps. Is that possible? I don't know, but I was feeling it. All right, and I moved my silicone mat aside because I've been inking on there, and I don't want ink to get where I don't want it, and before I have a chance to clean that off. Okay, now here we go. Green glue. A thin line around the edge. We're leaving a space for our finger so we have room to twist it over. A squiggle in the middle. Okay. Then we're going to put it in the center. We're going to wriggle it just a little. Now, if you put your green glue a little too close to the edge, your wriggling will not work out as well because it will creep out. It will creep out the sides. Okay. Now, we're going to put this on our card. So, again, we're going to go around the edge. And a squiggle in the middle. We're not going to go right over that little flower though, because why? It's at a little different level than the other piece of paper, so we don't need to. All right, we're going to put that in the center. Give it a little wriggle. Make sure it's right where we want it to be. Oh, you know what? I forgot this piece of designer series paper. So that is a little piece that is cut 3 by 1. And since I already cut one, I cut a 1-inch strip. I have another one just waiting to be used. Okay, so this little piece of designer series paper is 3 by 1. And we're just going to put a little glue around there. Okay. Little wiggle. Squiggle in the middle. We're going to turn it over and we're just going to stick it where we think it should go. We're not measuring. We're not making a lot of effort go into that. We're just getting it where we want it to be. Okay, next we're going to do our tall leaf. And I'm going to use mini glue dots to stick these on just because I think it's easier. You could still use the green glue, but because there are so many cut parts in these, sometimes it'll ooze through onto your fingers. And then you'll be stuck to the next leaf. Not that it's terrible being stuck with leaves, but when you don't want to, you don't want to. All right, we're going to put this one here on the left side. And I kind of made it stick out just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to take my other Lost Lagoon one next. And I'm going to stick my mini glue dot right on that bottom flower. Okay. And this one, I'm going to put a little so that it sticks out on the right side. See how that goes a little bit that way. Okay, and then the gold one is going to go right in the center. Okay. That one's stuck to my table. There we go. It's still stuck on the flower, it just also stuck to the table. Okay, we're going to put that one in the middle. Okay, now on the back of our circle, we're going to put some dimensionals. And I'm going to use some of the little ones this time. These are minis. Sometimes I use the regular size, sometimes the minis. It doesn't, either way, you can do either way. Sometimes I feel like I get more with the minis because they're the same size sheet, but they're cut really small. So it makes me feel like I get more dimensionals, but I don't know if that's actually true. Okay, so there is our circle. Okay, and now we're going to add our little flowers. So I'm going to use the one that I sponged first. Now, this is a little tricky, so I just want to show you how I use the green glue when they're teeny like this. You could use an adhesive sheet and stick it on the back first before you die cut it, but you can also just run a skinny line of green glue on it, just a little bit, to stick it down. Okay, and I want this one to go off this side, so I'm just going to put it right there. And now that green glue is only on the bottom. I didn't put it on the top. So, but it's enough to hold it in place. You don't need a lot. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Okay, I'm just going to put a little green glue on the leaf and then a little on the stem. And I'm just barely squeezing it. I am not adding a lot of glue. Okay, so this one is going to kind of go on top of the other one just a bit. And then we're going to add the petal pink one. And I'm going to put that glue on the stem. Okay, see how it's just barely coming out? I don't know if you can even see that little tiny bit of green glue there. But you don't need very much at all. It will stick. Okay, so there is our little pink flower. Then on the back of our sentiment, we can put some of these mini dimensionals. And here on the right side, that's going to be over here where it could easily get smushed down. So what I'm going to do is double dimension it. I don't know if anyone else does that or not, but I do. Uh-oh, I don't know what's going on. Hopefully you can still see me because I don't see anyone and I don't see my video. Something went wrong. Let's see. Well, it looks like you can still see. I don't see any comments, so I'm hoping that this is working out. Here is our second card. We have one more to go, and I will try to be a little quicker with this one. Okay, so this is our third card. It actually should go a little quicker. It's an easier card than the first two were. So we've got a Misty Moonlight base, and this is 5.5 by 8.5. We're going to score this at 4 1/4. And fold it. And then we're going to take our bone folder and give it a press. Okay, I always try to do that to keep it nice and smooth. So there is that. Next, we need our designer series paper. And this time, we are using this blue with the gold in it. So I don't know if you have heard about the kintsugi process. I don't know if you call it a process or I don't know what you call it, but it's kind of like the art of repair, I would say. So it's when your, I think, porcelain gets broken. Our piece is going to be 2 by 5.5. And it's the art of repairing it, but you repair it so that the cracks still show. So the gold is the cracks, right? That's where you use the gold. And I think the idea behind it is turning something broken into something beautiful. And I really love the idea of that. So our designer series paper is 2 by 5.5. Then we want our gold to be 2 1/4 by 5.5, because we're going to give it a little border, but we want it to go all the way to the edge of the card this time. All right, and then again, we're going to use another little gold piece. So we're going to cut that out right now. And this is, again, in the Gallery Blooms dies. I don't know if you have seen, but these are all the dies in the Gallery Blooms, along with these 2 frames, which are really nice. I can show you a card that we made at in-person card class Friday night that we used one of those frames for when we're done. Because if I get distracted, then this will not be as quick a card as I just told you I was trying to make it. All right, here is our little gold leaf. And here is our piece with that gold cut out of the center. So anytime you're using gold, you can always cut something out of the center. If you're just using it on a background as a background layer. All right, we've got our leaf. We've got this. We need a Misty Moonlight branch. And this, I use that little flowery one again. I think it's supposed to be maybe like a lilac or a hydrangea, or no, not a hydrangea. That's wrong altogether. A hyacinth. That's what I was thinking. They both start with high, right? So an email after tonight, an email will be coming out with the instructions for these cards. Again, I'm looking for my take your pick tool and I left it somewhere. I think it's upstairs. Okay, so here is my little flower branch. Who knows what flower it is? I don't know. I'll have to ask someone. Maybe my friend Jillian or my friend Mary. One of them for sure will know what kind of flower that is. All right, and I am again searching my little sentiment box, and this is from the Nested Essentials dies. So it's a basic white with the Nested Essentials dies. All right, and I am remembering which side of this silicone craft sheet I used already, because I don't want to get on the same side. Okay, this time we're going to stamp thank you for everything. So this is going to be a thank you card. We've got you've been on my mind card. We made just a note card, and now we're making a thank you card. Seems like all reasonable cards to have in your stash. Okay, so we're going to tap on our ink. Remember, when you're stamping, just tap. You do not have to smush your stamp into your ink. You just want to tap till you get a nice color, and then your stamping will be nice and crisp. All right, so those need to be cleaned off. I'm going to remember that in a moment. I'm saying it out loud so that you can remind me if I don't remember what I'm supposed to be remembering. All right, and now we can put this card together. This is a quicker one than the other two. They had a little more detail. Okay, we're going to add our green glue, thin line around the edge. We're leaving a space for our finger. Squiggle down the middle. You don't have to squiggle as much as that. I kind of over squiggled that time. Is that a thing? I don't know. All right, we're going to wriggle it into the right spot and then press it down. You do want to be a little careful when you're pressing, because if you press a little too vigorously, it's going to wriggle, especially before it dries. And you may not want that. You may want it, you may not. Okay, we're going to turn that over. Okay, little squiggle, little squiggle. Okay. And then we are going to adhere it right to the front. Now this gold, I will tell you, takes a little bit longer to dry with the green glue than regular cardstock does. Just so you know. Uh-oh, I got a sticky spot on my table. I don't want my card to stick. All right, there we go. Okay, now to get all of our stuff onto here, we're going to turn this over and we're going to do the same thing where we run our Stampin' Seal along the back of our sentiment. We're going to grab our white baker's twine. Okay, and we're just going to wind it a couple times around our fingers. Okay, I want it to stick out on either side a little bit. And I can trim it. Okay, now I always turn it over a little bit so I can see which way I want it to go. So I want it to go this way. And I'm just going to stick it down on there. And before I stick it really tight, I can turn it back over and kind of pull my threads if I want them to go a little bit different way, depending on where everything else is. Okay, and then I can stick my other pieces on there. And I'm just making sure that they get stuck to wherever the glue is behind there. Okay. Oh, that one might not have enough glue there on the edge. Nope. Okay. So I'm going to take my seal and just run it a little bit along that edge. Can you tell I don't use Stampin' Seal very much? Okay. Then we're just going to stick that right on the back. I keep trying to stick it where there's no sticky. Okay. And then we can take a couple dimensionals and put them right on the back. And I'm going to make sure that I stick mine on top of those stems so that they're trapped in there and they can't escape. Okay, and then we just figure out where we're going to put our sentiment. I think it might even be straight. Okay, and there are cards for tonight. So we've got thank you for everything. We've got just a note. And we've got you've been on my mind. So these are using the Gallery Blooms and the Beautiful Motifs stamp sets. The Gallery Blooms dies. We also used the pressed flowers and the exposed brick 3D embossing folder. So those are tonight's cards, and I did say I would show you one with a frame, and this is one of the cards we made at in-person class using the frame that is in the Gallery Blooms dies. They are really, really nice dies. If you're looking for flowers, they're really pretty. And that is all I have for you tonight. Again, if you want to get this class for free, the kit for free, all you have to do is place an order, a Stampin' Up! Order. Choose me as your demonstrator. before Saturday at 11:59 a.m. Because at lunchtime I'll be placing my order for the next week, or just after lunchtime maybe. Let me know if you have any questions. There will be an email coming out this week with a tutorial and a link for all the basic stuff that you might need to go along with your kit. So the stamps, the colors of ink. I think that's probably it. But everything will be on there if you want everything. Okay, until next time, happy stamping. I hope that you'll join me for in-person. My next Kit Together is November 1st, and my next in-person class is November 14th. I'll see you soon. Happy stamping.